Hey, Woody, did you miss me? Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, giddy up. Ride him, cowboy. Oh, I forgot. You're broken. I don't want to play with you anymore.
What comes to mind when you hear the words Call of Duty? Is it dropping into Verdansk and playing some Warzone? Is it playing zombies on classic maps like Kino der Toten? Classic campaigns set in the modern era? The glory days of Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer? Or extinction from Call of Duty Ghosts? Probably not. But there was a time when Call of Duty wasn't known for any of these things. It was described like this.
At the Stanford branch, they all play this World War II video game called Call of Duty.
Alright, Jim, are you using the MP40 or the 44?
Sniper rifle?
Snipe what? Jim, are you playing for the other team?
You don't snipe in Carrington. Oh.
It looks like quickscoping wasn't really a thing back then. I mean, come on, just let the man snipe. But for years, that's all Call of Duty was known for. The games were pretty fun, but the campaigns weren't the most memorable thing in the world, and the multiplayer was a little bare bones to say the least. But it wasn't until 2007 that Call of Duty was put on the map, with the release of a little game called Modern Warfare. And this game bumped things up a notch. You had a new multiplayer with perks and much more class customization, and a campaign that blew everyone away. Now, it would be hard to find someone that would say that this change was a bad thing, because if it didn't happen, then Call of Duty could have ended up just like Medal of Honor. Now, after the success of Modern Warfare, Call of Duty decided to go back to the oh-so-familiar setting of World War II with the release of World at War. Now, this game certainly holds a special place in my heart, and it's one of my favorite Call of Duties of all time. It took the successful formula from Modern Warfare and applied it to the World War II setting. The campaign was dark and gritty, and they brought in Jack Bauer
Tell me where the bomb is!
and Sirius Black so that you could fight alongside with them. It was even the game that brought in zombies. Now, this game was successful, but it was the last time that we would get a World War II Call of Duty for quite a while. We would get to jetpack around in 3 different games. It was safe to say that people were a little bit sick of the advanced movement by the time that Infinite Warfare was released. But at last, Call of Duty would go back to its roots with boots on the ground combat. And when Call of Duty World War II was released, it had a bit of a rocky start. Things did end up getting ironed out, but even then this was during the whole loot boxes phase.
Wow.
And this brings me to one of the main reasons why I don't think we'll be getting a Call of Duty set in World War II anytime soon. It seems like they had a hard time coming out with content that would incentivize you to actually want to get loot boxes. You had things like pistol grips, which no one really paid attention to because you couldn't even see them. And not only that, but you'd open up a loot box, and you'd see that you got something of a high rarity, just for it to be a pistol grip that's the exact same as the 20 other ones that you have.
Your
Pistol grip.
This will make a fine addition to my collection.
Now, this was more of an issue for that specific game, but it does seem like it's hard for them to create content that'll incentivize you to buy the battle pass or bundles, and that also doesn't feel really out of place. An even better example of this is Call of Duty Vanguard. Now, this game, in my opinion, had a plethora of problems, but one thing that it did have going for it was that the game actually felt like it took place during World War II. Until the very first season where we got the first Battle Pass. Every year, a lot of Call of Duty players end up buying the Battle Pass. Now, the last 2 World War II games had probably the worst content. From the basically invisible pistol grips, to all of the worthless emotes in Vanguard. Now, here's the store from Vanguard. These operators do look pretty cool, but if you stick them in a World War II game, they just feel so out of place. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that celebrity operators can be pretty cool. Like, who wouldn't want to play as Snoop Dogg? But he just looks a little out of place in World War II. But I guess that's nothing compared to this guy. Again, he looks pretty cool, but it just feels so weird. These things just make it seem like as soon as it's time for Call of Duty to start adding content, they start to have a bit of an identity crisis. Like, do we want to be 100% committed to trying to be as realistic and accurate as possible? Or do we want to be like Fortnite, where you're playing as the Red Army and then all of a sudden you get sniped by Peter Griffin?
I got no scope. Bro, am I trolling?
With the formula that's used on basically every Call of Duty game with a campaign, zombies, and multiplayer, it seems like the only one of those that would work well in a World War II setting is zombies. Mainly because that's how zombies started, because of experiments that were done during World War II. Even though we've had a lot of Call of Duty games set in World War II over the years, the only campaign that was really outstanding and super memorable was good old World at War. Back when Call of Duty was just a first-person shooter World War II game, the campaigns just weren't very memorable. Now, I've played most of them, and there's not really a character or level or moment that really stands out to me, aside from this one.
Will you look at that? A person. Relieve him, Doyle. Quietly.
But then you had World at War, which was great. Then World War II was decent. It was a little generic, but it had its moments. The level where you had to sneak around an enemy base and answer questions was my favorite level in that game because it was something new. And then there's Vanguard. There's no shortage of reasons why I didn't like this game. The dialogue was a little rough.
I shoot Nazis. They die. That's my plan.
Yeah, that's why we brought the guns. To shoot them.
And the whole campaign was spent exploring the backstories of the soldiers that make up this elite unit. And the first and last level were the only levels that you actually got to fight together as a unit. It just felt like a waste of time, but at least you got everyone's point of view. Now, if we ever did get a Call of Duty World War II game, they should make the game like an alternate history Wolfenstein game. Now, if you haven't played these games, the premise of the game is that the Allies lost and weren't able to create the nuke before the Axis was able to. If this were to happen, it would allow for a lot more liberties to be taken in terms of the kinds of guns that are used, the characters, or the historical events. It would also allow for a continuous story, because all the other World War II games are pretty much just a one and done. Now, I'm not sure if this is accurate or not, but I think that was the initial plan for Vanguard, was that there would be sequels after, where you would actually follow the same unit. But the story in Vanguard would have been a lot more interesting if, for each of the characters' backstory, you got to see a piece of the puzzle as to why the Allies lost the war. Now, I'm not saying that there's not enough content from World War II, because there is plenty there to be explored. But a Call of Duty game like Wolfenstein would allow for interesting and creative new content during the life cycle of the game. And dare I say, for those of you that are feeling ready for another jetpack Call of Duty game, they could potentially make that work. Now, I think that it's extremely unlikely that this would ever happen, but it would be easier to keep things fresh if one game was Black Ops, then Modern Warfare, and then World War II. All I'm saying is that if we get new Call of Duties every year, it'd be nice if there was some variety. If the World War II games did better and were more successful, we would definitely see more of them. And who knows, if Vanguard was a better game, then we could potentially see another one in the future. But Vanguard was that last sour note that made it seem like there wasn't interest in World War II games anymore, when in reality the game just wasn't very good and left a bad taste in our mouths. But we'll see if anything changes, because at this point, Black Ops 6 isn't doing too well. I think if we do get another World War II game, it would probably just be a remaster of World at War, which would be awesome, but it doesn't seem like that's happening anytime soon. Let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.
I shoot Nazis. They die. That's my plan.